voice of Africa. The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Hello, I'm Tansai Gabiao from the Pulse of Africa studio in Addis Ababa, bringing you news updates. Big news out of Nairobi, Kenya, where the 24th COMESA Heads of State and Government Summit is underway. Leaders from all over the region have gathered to talk about how Africa can move forward together, especially when it comes to the economy and technology. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed gave a powerful speech saying Africa needs an urgent digital transformation to drive future growth. He put it simply, technology is moving faster than ever, and this is not the time for Africa to just watch from the sidelines. Abiy stressed that teamwork is key, countries have to collaborate, and regional groups like COMESA are the bridge that can turn ideas into real action. He also talked about how digital public infrastructure could change the game, letting people verify who they are, make secure payments, and access services easily across borders. Ethiopia is already taking steps in that direction through its Digital Ethiopia 2030 plan. And this year's COMESA Summit is focusing exactly on that, how digital tools can help build stronger and more inclusive economies across Africa. We also learned that Zimbabwe will host the next summit and lead COMESA's agenda from 2026 to 2027. Meanwhile, in South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa is putting Africa's global partnerships front and center. He's heading to Brussels for EU Global Gateway Forum, where leaders and investors are meeting to push new partnerships in areas like digital connectivity, clean energy, transport, health, and education. Ramaphosa said Africa is ready to work with the European Union to create solutions that truly benefit our people. The idea is to match investments with Africa's real development goals, not just talk, but action. The forum is being hosted by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and it comes as the global attention turns toward Africa's growing role in the digital and green economies. Before this trip, Ramaphosa was in Ireland, meeting with President Michael Higgins and Prime Minister Michael Martin to boost ties in trade, innovation, education, and investment.
POA, the Pulse of Africa.
I would like you to follow POA, the Voice of Africa.
This is the face and the voice of Africa. We want you to watch this all the time.
The Voice of Africa. Stick with it. You will see Africa, how it will change for the better.
There is a tendency in the underdeveloped countries to think that there is a shortcut to development, that countries can be developed for us by someone else. I'm saying this is not possible, it has never happened. So what we are trying to say is the basis of development is our own effort.
Let's start with something that affects every corner of Africa, education. Experts say Africa's dream of becoming a global powerhouse depends on making education the cornerstone of development. In an interview with Pulse of Africa, Goroda Bagopi, Vice President for Gender and Women's Rights at the Botswana Teachers Union, said education is not taken as the pillar it should be. Without proper classrooms and facilities, we cannot transform our future. Experts across the continent are calling for more funding, better infrastructure, and digital transformation in schools, all in line with the African Union's Agenda 2063 and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Dr. Young Pirio, Director of Parliament at the African Union Simulation, put it simply, only Africa will deliver the best education system for Africa. With the rapid rise of artificial intelligence and digital platforms, there is growing demand for digital skills. The AU Digital Education Strategy is already helping member states digitalize schools, train teachers, prepare students for the future. But the challenges are big. Africa faces a shortfall of 17 million teachers by 2030, limited internet access in many schools, and unsafe learning conditions for millions of children. Experts agreed that Africa's future depends on sustained and transformative investment in education And that investment needs to start now. Turning to North Africa, some positive news for travelers and businesses. Libya and the United Arab Emirates are working to resume direct flights between the two countries. Libya's Transport Minister, Mohammed Al-Shaabi, met with Ahmed Tahir, an envoy from Dubai Civil Aviation Authority and Midiga Airport in Tripoli to discuss the plan. They talked through technical and security preparations for Emirates and Fly Dubai to restart flights to Midiga, Misrata, and Benghazi. Delegations from the airlines are expected to visit Libya soon to inspect the airports and set launch dates. The Libyan government says this move will help revive the economy, boost trade and tourism while reconnecting Libya with the global aviation network. Enhanced air links with the UAE could be a big step toward economic recovery and international reintegration.
They shaped history. They inspired generations. They are the notables.
I think of voices I have lost. The pledge unspoken, the more than acts of faith that forge an instant world in silent pact with strangers.
We consider ourselves the spokesmen for the underprivileged peoples of the world.
This week, we honor Wole Soyinka, a legend who left his mark.
It's election day in Seychelles as voters return to the polls for the presidential runoff. In last month's first round, Patrick Harmini, the former National Assembly Speaker from the United Seychelles Party, took the lead with 48.8% of the vote, narrowly ahead of President Wole Ramkalawan. President Ramkalawan said, "I think the people of Seychelles want a balance of power to get the best deal. If he wins, he'll face a divided government since his coalition lost its parliamentary majority in the last election." Voting actually began on Thursday for residents of remote islands and essential workers, but today, polls are open across the 3 main islands. Results are expected soon as the nation watches closely to see which direction Seychelles will take next. Big developments are on the way for Africa's health sector as preparations are underway for the 4th International Conference on Public Health in Africa, taking place from October 22nd to 25th in Durban, South Africa. This year's theme, Moving Towards Self-Reliance to Achieve Universal Health Coverage and Health Security in Africa, sets a clear tone. Africa is ready to lead its own health future. The conference is co-hosted by the African CDC, South African Government, and the Bio-African Convention. Dr. Jean Kaseya, Director General of the African CDC, said the event will be a vital platform for African-led health solutions, reducing dependence on foreign aid. One of the major outcomes of the summit will be the Durban Declaration, a roadmap that outlines Africa's health priorities ahead of the G20 Health Ministries meeting and Global Fund discussions coming up in November. Key focus areas include financing resilient health systems, boosting local vaccine and medicine production, and improving primary health care through innovations like telemedicine and AI-powered solutions. Experts from over 20 countries will come together to share ideas and shape Africa's path toward health self-reliance.
They shaped history. They inspired generations. They are the notables.
I think of voices I have lost. The pledge unspoken, the more than acts of faith that forge an instant world in silent pact with strangers.
consider ourselves the spokesmen for the underprivileged peoples of the world.
We honor Wole Soyinka, a legend who left his mark.
Welcome back. And now let's turn to the business world. In a major move that could shake up global markets, the Democratic Republic of Congo is set to introduce annual cobalt export quotas starting October 16. The quotas will be based on each company's production and shipment data from the last 3 years, part of a plan to better manage supply and stabilize prices. The DRC produces more than 70% of the world's cobalt, a key material used in batteries, smartphones, and defense technologies. President Felix Tshisekedi called the new policy a real lever to influence the market, especially as cobalt prices have surged 92% since March. The move has sparked mixed reactions. Major producer Glencore supports the quotas, while top rival Chinese mining company CMOC is against them. Artisanal miners, however, are excluded from the system, and new traceability measures will be enforced at labs and loading sites to ensure transparency. Smaller producers will still need to apply for export permits, overseen by a multi-agency committee. The announcement comes amid ongoing conflicts in eastern DRC, where violence continues to affect communities and displace thousands of people. Finally, Nigerian President Bola Tinubu has officially commissioned the $400 million Green Energy International Limited crude oil export terminal in Otaki-Po, River State. At the event, Tinubu highlighted that this terminal marks a new chapter for Nigeria's oil and gas industry, aiming to boost crude oil production with a secure and efficient evacuation system. He noted that the terminal will not only benefit Green Energy International Limited's production, but also unlock billions of barrels from marginal and stranded fields in the Niger Delta, creating significant economic value. Tinubu emphasized that this project showcases his administration's commitment to sustainable development and renewed confidence in the region. And that wraps up today's edition of Pulse of Africa. Thank you for watching. I'm Tensai Gabriel here in Addis Ababa. Be sure to tune in next time for more stories shaping Africa's future.
A land of wealth, a future of limited possibilities. This is El Dorado. From natural rich to groundbreaking innovations, discover Africa's untapped potential. El Dorado.
Hello viewers and welcome to the Pan-African Show. I'm your host, Kamachisa Mandita.
El Dorado.
As you quite well know, the term El Dorado denotes any place of fabulous wealth and immeasurable opportunities. And by all measures, Africa is the world's mushrooming El Dorado. This show brings you diverse stories and insights from our growing El Dorado. But first, let me take you to a brief update on Africa's treasures and key stories.
Hello and welcome to the Pulse of Africa Brief Treasure and Investment News. I'm Berka Sisa with the news. Stay tuned. Let me first take you to the billion-dollar diamond treasure inside a volcano in Africa. The Jwaneng Diamond Mine, located in Botswana, is the richest diamond mine globally, with an estimated value of 1 billion euros. Often referred to as the Prince of Mines, Jwaneng is situated in an ancient volcanic crater about 170 kilometers southwest of Botswana's capital, Gaborone. Jwaneng, which means a place of gems in Botswana. It has played a crucial role in Botswana's economy, contributing up to 70% of its foreign earnings. The mining is a vital part of Botswana's economy and a model for responsible mining. Botswana is the world's leading producer of diamonds by value, and its economy largely depends on diamond exporters. The African Development Banks call for Africa's vast natural capital to be considered when measuring the gross domestic product or GDP of African countries. Bank President Akinwumi Adesina highlighted the unique contribution to the wallets of African forces such as carbon sequestration, pollution control, retention of water, and soil fertility. Africa must make the best of its natural capital that is neglected or ignored in national accounts. Africa is not asking for handouts but for the wallet to pay for something that has tremendous value for all. The IRC's mining sector enters a new phase of growth. The Democratic Republic of Congo, already home to some of the world's largest reserves of cobalt and copper, is entering a dynamic new phase. Recent geological surveys have unveiled new mineral-rich zones, drawing renewed investor interest and strategic international partnerships. These new geological research zones are key to unlocking long-term investor confidence and will drive a more transparent, regulated approach to resource management.
So, the continent stands as a global El Dorado, a land of limitless promise and hidden treasures. Today, we have an in-depth story for you that explores into the African economic outlook and growth projection for the year 2025. Here we go.
The growth outlook in 2024-25 is heterogeneous.
Africa is home to about 30% of the world's mineral reserves, 12% of the world's oil, and 8% of the world's natural gas reserves. According to the United Nations, the continent also holds 40% of the world's gold and up to 90% of chromium and platinum. The essential components of your mobile phone are made from African minerals. For instance, lithium and cobalt are some of the key metals used to produce batteries. Yes, Africa is rich in natural resources and often seen as the world's El Dorado. So why does it remain poor? Our next show explores the real reasons behind Africa's ongoing poverty. Stay tuned.
El Dorado.
Africa is endowed with enormous natural resources necessary to propel its economic growth. Africa is home to some of the most precious natural resources such as diamond, uranium, platinum, petroleum, and many more. Undeniably, Africa is the wealthiest continent in the entire world in terms of natural resources. Africa is rich, but Africans are not. Why is the puzzle? My guest for today is Dr. Konstantinos Berhe-Tesfa, who is senior economic expert. Dr. Konstantinos Berhe-Tesfa, very warm welcome to our studio. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Why Africa remains underdeveloped despite its abundant natural resource? May I start the interview with this inquiry, Doctor?
I think basically it's historical and also contemporary on the other side. Historically, Africans have been subjected to slavery. They have been subjected to colonialism. And because of these factors, these are retarded the development of the continent in a more holistic way. But even after independence, the governments we had after post-independent Africa have not been responsible in trying to rebuild Africa from the vestiges of colonialism and slavery. For one, we had more than 100 military coups and counter coups. This makes sustainability of the state administration very difficult. Corruption is one of the biggest problems we face in Africa. The second thing we face is Africa has lost over $1 trillion in the past decade on illicit financial flows. We have more money going out of Africa than coming in FDI or in terms of loans and grants. The biggest problem is illicit trade. If we take, for example, the Democratic Republic of Congo, they have minerals worth $24 trillion. In fact, this has been an assessment about a decade ago. Now, this assessment has gone to $34 trillion. So, DRC on paper is the richest country in the world. But when you see the Human Development Index of DRC, it is the poorest country. So, these are the major problems: lack of leadership, lack of good governance, and also human capital flight. Africans, short of working in their own countries, professionals are living at the first chance they get to go out of Africa. For one, they don't get the jobs they were trained for. Number two, they don't get the equipment and facilities to be able to undertake their work properly. And number three, they are completely underpaid, and therefore, at the first chance, they leave their continent and become what you call the African diaspora.
What opportunities do Africans have in terms of utilizing their vast natural resource to propel economic growth, to realize prosperity and growth in their soil?
We have tremendous amount of agricultural land. We have fresh water that can be used for agriculture and human consumption. We have minerals all over Africa, like gold, tantalum, lithium, which is used now for electric vehicles, diamonds. And these minerals are in abundance. Some countries, they don't even know how much they have. Some other countries during the colonial period, their mineral potential has been mapped out very well. In terms of other opportunities, Africa has a young population. 70% of African population are youth. And these youth now are educated youth. If you see Europe, some Asian countries, it's an aging population where the working population number is diminishing. Birth rates are declining in these countries. And therefore, most of the investments that are going to be undertaken that are going to use human capacity will be in Africa. But these opportunities will need also proper governance and proper investment administration. The other opportunity, Africa is literally the center of the world. We have all shipping lines and supply chains passing through Africa. Africa has enormous potential. Much has been written about it. There is no question about it.
Apparently, the story of Africa is not only about poverty or crisis. In fact, Africans have been making significant strides in terms of economic growth. Many African countries have registered fast economic growth over the past couple of decades. So there are prospects. So what are the future prospects of Africa in terms of economic development?
Well, the average GDP growth in Africa last year has been about 3.1%. It's projected to be about 4% this year and 4.1% next year. But there are countries in Africa that have excelled more than the 5% mark. And this is probably 5 of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world are in Africa. We have also startup companies that are amazing. In Senegal, Nigeria, Egypt, South Africa, and Kenya, we have startups in financial technology, fintechs, that have surpassed $1 billion in terms of investment. These are what you call unicorns in technical terms. And this financial technology startups are really fueling development in Africa. I have great hopes that very soon great changes are going to take place in which Africa can use its own resources, its own human capital, and its own leadership in this transformation.
Yeah. You know, Doctor, recently I held an interview with one brilliant young man from Malawi called Rex Chapota, and he said the war on poverty is the greatest fight that we need to prioritize. Do you think, Doctor, do you think African leaders, African politicians, policy makers, and other prominent peoples of the continent understand the urgency of fighting poverty?
Well, on paper, yes, because I see AU declaration is coming up on this issue from time to time. In fact, I think the African Union might be running out of agenda now for the head of states to declare. But the problem is, we all talk on paper. The World Bank has changed its entire agenda to focus on poverty. The African Development Bank is focusing on poverty. These are major regional and international financial institutions that are supposed to bring change to countries. So the only thing that is stopping African countries is conflicts. 39 countries in Africa have some form of conflicts going on today. The Peace and Security Council of the African Union is permanently engaged in this kind of meetings, day in, day out. And just the last 3 years, we have something like 12 coup d'etats. And these have become a challenge for development. Leaders have to look into not the benefits they get within the 4 or 5 years they have been leaders and presidents of a country, but on the long-term benefits of their country that history will remember them for.
You know, many of the problems, many of the challenges and setbacks that we have discussed on, like violence, chaos, war, and conflict emanates from poverty, isn't it? One way or other, it's poverty and economic crisis that exacerbates the situation in the continent. So how Africans should work collaboratively to achieve victory over poverty?
You know, in my 2013 book on unleashing Africa's resilience, which is 740 corruption, illicit financial flows, and illicit trade, are all undertaken by those people that we elect into government. Leadership is a very important issue. Leaders have to understand that a peaceful transformation and negotiation.
Yeah. Dr. Konstantinos Berheta,